These are the 5 tips that will dramatically improve your photography on a bad weather day.
And this helpful guide is brought to you by KEH Camera.
Number 1. Find color.
Cloudy and rainy weather can be a vibe if you're going for a moody feel. For my friend Professor Hines, he thrives in these conditions. But if that's not the style you're going for, then it can feel difficult getting the results you want. However, if you're already out with a camera, instead of giving up, try finding bright colors that can pop in your photos. For example, autumn foliage with its yellow, orange, and red leaves will definitely stick out in the scene. After all, you may have heard human eyes will always get drawn to the brightest part of your image, so you want to make sure to go for subjects that can stand out in your photos. By the way, hot tip for you. To really accentuate the colors, play with the HSL sliders in your editing software. Hue, saturation, and lightness can isolate a specific color in your image, and you can choose to emphasize it or mute it entirely. Simply use the color picker tool, pick out the color you want to focus on, and drag the sliders left and right to see what effects you can achieve.
Can't find colors? Wear bright colors!
Unfortunately, this is a problem for both Vivian and I, as our wardrobe tends to lean more gray, brown, and black. We are definitely not suited to be subjects in overcast conditions. But luckily for us, Disneyland have a ton of princesses that have colorful outfits. However, if you're scheduling a portrait shoot with a friend or a model, and it looks to be a cloudy day, have them wear colors that can stick out in the scene. Anything that helps the viewers draw their attention to the subject will increase the photo's effectiveness.
Coming up next, we have helpful tips when shooting portraits on an overcast day. But first, this helpful guide is brought to you by KEH Camera.
KEH is a reputable online store that sells pre-owned camera gear. Whether you need a 16-35 for landscape or an 85mm for portraits, everything that comes their way gets thoroughly inspected so you can shop with confidence. All purchases come with a 180-day warranty should something go wrong, or 21 days to return if you end up not liking it. And hey, the holidays are coming up. Maybe instead of buying a new lens, you need to cash out to buy a present for a certain special someone. Consider selling 1 or 2 of your camera gear to KEH Camera. If you are satisfied with the initial quote, you can send in your gear for the same thorough inspection, and once you're happy with the final quote, you get paid via check, PayPal, or store credit. However, if you end up changing your mind, they will ship your gear back free of charge. To learn more, check out the link in the description box below. Thanks for listening. Now back to the video. More often than not, you may have heard overcast days are the best time for portraits. The lighting is less harsh and it provides even lighting overall for your subject. But despite the lack of light, there will likely be a spot in the sky where the sun is hiding and it will still shine through. If that's the case, have your subject face towards the light as much as possible. Bonus, try to get that catch light in their eyes. It's a small little detail, but it helps tremendously to bring life out of your subject in the photograph. However, depending on where your subject is facing, there may not be enough light on their face. That's where a reflector comes in handy. This is an age-old tool photographers use to bounce some of that incoming light back up to the subject's face, creating a more pro-portrait look. As you're seeing here, my friend Jessica is using the available lighting around her as the key light or main light, and the reflector as a fill light to light up any dark areas. The difference between using a reflector and not using one is quite drastic, and you can queue up her video to watch next if you're interested in how she captures portraits on a cloudy day in Paris. But what if you don't have a reflector or you're caught in a pinch?
Now, what would help is to find reflective surfaces, something like this lake right here with the water, or windows to bounce light to your subject's face. Another good tip is to find dark surfaces to subtract lighting. That way you can create more depth on a subject's face.
Similar to a reflector, reflective surfaces can give that extra kick of light needed for your subject's face. Vice versa, dark areas are just as powerful too, as they can subtract light in the areas where you might have too much light, giving your subject's face more dimension.
And if worse comes to worse, just turn it black and white.
Because this can be considered a cop-out answer, I decided to make this tip a bonus. There are some benefits for beginners to photograph in black and white. Think of it as eliminating distractions. In our case, eliminating color distraction. What we end up with is pure lighting. We can begin to understand how effective lighting can be when we just focus on that. And when we have a better understanding of lighting, we'll be able to apply some of that understanding to color photos as well. A great tip would be to shoot in both RAW and JPEG in your camera and enable black and white profile in your camera. That way, if you change your mind and want to add color back in, the RAW will retain all of the color information, while the JPEG will give you the straight out of camera black and white results.
By the way, if you're struggling with low light photography, check out my guide right here. Thank you so much for watching. The water gods are angry. I'm just trying to do some photo demo here. Why, dude? Another good tip is to find dark surfaces to subtract lighting. That way you can create more depth on a subject's face.
You mean like Two-Face?
Two-Face? Harvey Dent, can we trust him?